From teammates throwing punches in the locker room to rivals trading elbows and spits years after retirement.
I don't remember teams going shaking hands. This is just me. Maybe I missed something somewhere. Now,
some NBA beefs don't cool off after the final buzzer.
Well, I know it's all bullshit. Whatever he says now, you know it wasn't his true actions then. It's time enough to think about it. Or the reaction of the public that's kind of changed his perspective of it. You can show me anything you want. There's no way you can convince me he wasn't an asshole.
This isn't about heat-of-the-moment technicals or a hard foul in transition. This is about players who genuinely hated each other. Grudges so personal, the game couldn't contain them. This is Game Tape Central, and these are the NBA beefs so real, they didn't end after the final buzzer. The beef between Michael Jordan and Isaiah Thomas is one of the longest and most bitter feuds in NBA history.
Power slam, Scotty with some good movement, Jimmy. Had 17 points in each.
But before the cameras, this story starts in the late 80s. In the early 80s, Michael Jordan was the new kid on the block, a high-flying assassin, racking up scoring titles, posters, and ad deals. But despite all the flash and fame, he couldn't get past one obstacle in his career: the Detroit Pistons. The Pistons, or the Bad Boy Pistons as they are now called, were led by Isaiah Thomas, and they were everything Jordan wasn't. Gritty, physical, nasty. They didn't want to be stars. They wanted to break stars. From 1988 to 1990, the Pistons knocked Jordan out of the playoffs 3 straight times. And they didn't just beat him, they battered him. Literally. The Pistons created a defensive blueprint known as the Jordan rules. If MJ touched the paint, he got hit. If he rose up, they knocked him down. But if you thought that's just playoff basketball, nah. This was warfare. Business as usual for the Bad Boy Pistons. Jordan later said, "They made it personal. They tried to hurt us."
Oh, I hated him. And yeah, hate carries even to this day. They made it personal. They physically beat the shit out of us.
But the tension wasn't just on the court. Behind the scenes, Isaiah and MJ were two kings who couldn't share the throne. Isaiah was from Chicago, Jordan City. He was the hometown hero until Jordan showed up and stole the spotlight. Isaiah didn't like that, and Jordan, he never forgot. But the real crack in their relationship came in 1991. After years of being dominated and eliminated by the Pistons, the Bulls finally broke through. They swept the Pistons in the Eastern Conference Finals 4-0. It was the passing of the torch. And how did Isaiah and the Pistons respond? He walked off the court before the game ended with 7.9 seconds left. No handshake, no respect, just a pissed-off old guard feeling their chains have just been snatched.
Around by Bloody Divac.
I think that Magic Johnson really got him fired up about it.
Jordan was furious, and if you watch the interviews, you'll see it in his eyes.
Well, I know it's all bullshit. Whatever he says now, you know it wasn't his true actions then. It's time enough to think about it. Or the reaction of the public that's kind of changed his perspective of it. You can show me anything you want. There's no way you can convince me he wasn't an asshole.
Now fast forward to 1992, the Dream Team, the most legendary roster ever assembled, and Isaiah Thomas was nowhere to be found. Officially, it was basketball reasons, but unofficially, Jordan was the reason. In The Last Dance, Jordan tried to say he wasn't behind it.
Now, it was insinuated that I was asking about him, but I never threw his name in.
But we all know what he said off camera. He told Team USA officials and even some players, if Isaiah's on the team, I'm not playing. And just like that, Isaiah got blackballed from the Dream Team. To this day, Isaiah still claims he was the better point guard. He says MJ froze him out of all-star games, called the shots for Team USA, and smeared his legacy. Jordan smiles and doesn't say a word. But if that was personal, wait till you see what happens when two of the pettiest point guards in the league start throwing hands right in the middle of a game. If you've been watching the NBA long enough, you know there's beef. And then there's the Rondo beef. This man is a Hall of Fame hoarder of grudges. He doesn't let things go. And when it comes to Chris Paul, they've never liked each other. Not in high school, not in college, not in the NBA. Even though they played the same position, came into the league just 2 years apart, and were both known as floor generals, Rondo always felt CP3 got more love than he deserved, and CP3, he never really bothered to hide how he felt about Rondo either. But for years, it was just tension, rumors, the occasional trash talk until October 20th, 2018. Lakers versus Rockets. LeBron's first home game in LA. National TV, bright lights. With just under 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, Brandon Ingram gets frustrated and shoves James Harden. Refs blow the whistle against Harden instead, so the players start going at it.
All right, there's the initial foul.
The refs get in between them, and for a while, things look like they were about to settle until Rondo and CP3 come face to face, and then this happens.
It's a throw! Paul and Rondo throwing punches! Ingram comes in, he's throwing punches!
At first, it looks like an ordinary fight, but a closer look shows that suddenly Rondo spits on Chris Paul. You heard that right, spits. Whether it was intentional or not, CP3 definitely thought it was, because right after Paul puts his finger in Rondo's face, Rondo swings. CP3 fires back, both land punches, and just like that, Staples Center turned into a backyard brawl. Players were grabbing each other, trying to hold back the mayhem. LeBron's in the middle, literally dragging CP3 away like a dad breaking up a family cookout fight. Everyone gets ejected. The league drops suspensions. Rondo gets 3 games, CP3 gets 2, Ingram, who started the whole thing, gets 4. But the wildest part, after the game, Rondo doesn't deny it. He doubles down and says CP3 has been a bad teammate his whole career, calls him fake, says the league protects him too much. And CP3, he lets his fists and banana boat circle do the talking. To this day, they still don't speak. 2 of the most respected point guards of their generation. And if you put them in the same room, you'd still need security. Speaking of needing security, let's talk about a beef so serious it made you hit the subscribe button. Seriously, let's talk about a beef that transcended lawsuits and post-retirement Twitter war. Let's talk Ray Allen versus the 2008 Celtics. If loyalty were a stat, Ray Allen wouldn't be putting up all-star numbers, but that's just the Celtics side of the story. Back in 2008, the Boston Celtics were the team no one wanted to play against. KG, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, Rajon Rondo. The original Big Three before LeBron famously took his talents anywhere. They won a ring together, locked arms like brothers, and then it all fell apart when Ray left. What made it sting the most? It wasn't just that Ray left, it's where he went. In the summer of 2012, Ray Allen turned down a $12 million deal from Boston to join the Miami Heat. Yup, LeBron, Wade, Bosh, the very team they'd been going to war with every year. Paul Pierce said it felt like betrayal. KG said Ray was dead to him, and Rondo, he didn't even speak the man's name anymore. You'd think it was over some massive locker room fight, right? No, it was tension built inch by inch. Ray didn't like how Rondo was taking over the offense. KG didn't like how Ray kept talking contract. There was ego, silence, and a whole lot of I'm good on that guy energy. And when Ray made his first return to Boston in a Heat jersey, KG stood like a statue, didn't blink, didn't flinch, just stared forward like Ray Allen was a ghost. Even years later, in reunion interviews and all-star panels, it stayed icy. The 2008 Celtics had dinner events and anniversary parties, but Ray wasn't invited. Hell, when ESPN tried to put the crew together for a sit-down, KG said, that man ain't family. And you know what's wild? All of this after Ray Allen hit one of the greatest shots in NBA history for Miami, 2013 Finals. Game 6, the corner 3 that saved LeBron's legacy and ripped out San Antonio's heart. That shot made him a Miami legend, but in Boston, it just made the betrayal feel permanent. Now, over a decade later, they've tried to patch things up. Ray showed up at KG's jersey retirement in 2022.
Nah, I want to say something, man. It's good to see Ray Allen here, man. Real shit. Hey, Lord. It's good to see you here, Ray.
But sometimes the tension doesn't need decades to boil over. Sometimes the beef goes from simmer to sucker punch in less than a second. Just ask Jordan Poole and Draymond Green. Sometimes the fight doesn't happen during the game. Sometimes it happens when the cameras aren't supposed to be rolling. But in October 2022, someone hit record during Warriors practice, and what they captured was one of the most shocking teammate altercations in NBA history. But let's rewind back to 2022. At the time, the Warriors were riding high. Fresh off their 4th championship in 8 years, Steph was at the peak of his powers. Klay was back, Wiggins had found his role, and the new blood guys like Jordan Poole were on a fast rise. Poole had just balled out in the playoffs, averaging over 17 a game. He had swagger, a new contract on the table, and he knew it. but that confidence was on a cocky edge and it didn't sit right with everybody, especially not with Draymond Green. See, Draymond's the vet, the enforcer, the vocal leader of the Warriors dynasty, and he was on the exact opposite end of that contract conversation. While Poole was on the verge of signing a $140 million extension.
I think Malika, realistically, he's looking at that Tyler Hero contract, which was 4 years, $120 million.
Draymond was still waiting. No extension, no talks, just speculation. The mood in camp, tense. According to insiders, Poole had been talking shit during practices, talking wild, acting differently. And during one particular scrimmage, he said the wrong thing to the wrong vet at the wrong time. And if you knew Draymond, you know he snaps at almost everything. And this time, it wasn't any different. During practice, after both exchanging words, Draymond finally snapped and this happened. The Warriors immediately went into damage control, suspending Draymond indefinitely.
That just came out. ESPN sources say the NBA is suspending Golden State's Draymond Green indefinitely.
And although Draymond apologized right after,
I apologize to his family.
Steve Kerr still calls it the biggest crisis of his coaching career. And Steph, he stood by Poole, but never publicly condemned Draymond either. Poole still got his $140 million bag.
Jordan Poole signed a 4-year, $140 million contract extension.
Draymond still suited up to start the season, but the vibe in the Warriors dressing room remained broken. The chemistry was off, and by the end of the season, the Warriors were bounced by the Lakers and Poole was shipped off to Washington while Draymond stayed. Some say the Warriors chose culture over conflict, others say they just chose Draymond over Poole. But either way, that practice punch didn't just break a jaw, it ended a whole era of Golden State basketball. And if that punch in practice blew up a dynasty from the inside, this next one nearly blew out a knee. Let's talk about the infamous beef between Joel Embiid and Marcus Smart. The beef between Joel Embiid and Marcus Smart didn't start in the NBA. It started way back in 2014 with a poster dunk, a public roast, and an Instagram post that aged like wine. Back when Embiid was still playing at Kansas and Smart was the starter at Oklahoma State, the two met in a fierce college matchup. Midway through the game, Embiid caught the ball on the wing, took one dribble and rose up. And Marcus Smart, he jumped. Bad idea. Embiid threw it down on his head.
Spread the floor, Selden.
And right after the game, Joel went full savage on IG. The post is still up on his page, 601 weeks ago, captioned and stamped like it was personal. And ever since that moment, Smart and Embiid have had something between them. Not quite a rivalry, not quite respect, but something hot and bubbling is always one hard foul away from blowing up. Fast forward 8 years to October 2022, opening week of the NBA season. Sixers versus Celtics, and once again, Smart versus Embiid. The matchup between them was heated, but somewhere in the third quarter of the game, the beef reached an all-time high. Embiid sets a screen. Not exactly clean, but it was enough to get Smart knocked off balance. And immediately after, Smart makes no hesitation at shoving Embiid to the floor. The refs blow the whistle immediately and give Smart a technical foul. But Smart doesn't stop. He keeps barking. He keeps pointing. So they ejected him from the court. But that wasn't the end of it because the postgame, both Smart and Embiid were going at it. First, Smart says, "I would have cracked my head open. He tried to flop, so I just fell."
You know, I could have cracked his head open, but I didn't. And that's the maturity we have, you know what I'm saying?
Embiid didn't bother with the drama, saying, "I don't care. He's not someone who matters in what we're trying to do." Although both of them after the game tried to play it off, we still see the moments where they go at it on a deeply personal level on the court, like this one clip.
Look at this.
I agree. I think that's what he objected to, was the second.
But if you thought that one had tension, wait till you see what happened when Jimmy Butler finally crossed paths with Karl Anthony Towns and decided to torch his entire franchise in practice. If there's one thing about Jimmy Butler, it's that he doesn't do fake friends. He doesn't do smiles for the camera, and he definitely doesn't do soft teammates. Jimmy was built from concrete and scars, homeless at 13, undrafted in high school, second-round pick. Nothing about his rise to the league was smooth, and by the time he became an all-star in Chicago, you knew what came with him. Pressure, intensity, and the chip on his shoulder the size of a G League arena. So, when he got traded to Minnesota in 2017, people thought he'd turn them into contenders, but instead, he turned the whole franchise inside out. Because on the surface, that Timberwolves team had potential. Young stars in Karl-Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins, decent role players, and now Butler. But behind closed doors, Jimmy thought he was surrounded by players who didn't want it enough, didn't train hard enough, didn't care about winning. And that tension, it built quietly. At first, it was subtle. Jimmy is calling out teammates in interviews, rolling his eyes in huddles. Rumors started leaking. Jimmy doesn't vibe with the locker room. He's not happy in Minnesota. But the Wolves ignored the smoke until the day it exploded. October 10th, 2018, Timberwolves practice. Jimmy had already requested a trade and the front office was stalling. So he walked into practice like a man on a mission and created one of the most savage beef moments in NBA history. Instead of practicing with the starters, Towns, Wiggins, Teague, and the rest, Jimmy demanded to run with the third stringers. And then he destroyed the starters. He talked trash the whole time, screaming things like, "Y'all need me. You can't win without me." He blocked Towns. He scored on Wiggins. He ran circles around everyone on the floor. And after cooking the entire first team, Jimmy marched up to the GM who was watching the practice and shouted, "You effing need me," then walked out just like that. And as if that wasn't enough, Jimmy pulled up to an ESPN interview right after and aired it all out. Everybody wants to win, but not everybody wants to do what it takes. A few weeks later, the Timberwolves had no choice. They traded him to Philly. To this day, Jimmy and Cat still take jabs at each other. During a heated game in 2022, Towns hit a three and celebrated. Butler looked at the camera and said, "And every time they play, it feels personal." This wasn't just a locker room disagreement, this was a war of mentality, and Jimmy made sure everyone watching knew which side he was on. But it's not the first time that teammates would beef in the NBA. In fact, the beef between these next guys happened mid-play in game. But what really happened? Let's get into it. April 10th, 2023 was supposed to be the Timberwolves' big moment. First game of the 2023 regular season, playoff positioning on the line. All eyes on Minnesota. And what happened? Right there, on national television, during a timeout, Rudy Gobert lunges across the huddle and punches his own teammate, Kyle Anderson, in the chest. But hold up, this wasn't just some random outburst. This was a beef that had been brewing all season long. See, Kyle Anderson is an intense guy, hard-nosed, vocal, no filter. They don't call him slow-mo for nothing. But when he talks, there's no pause button. And Rudy, he had his own run-ins.
Have Draymond. The reason Draymond went so demonstrably is that Gobert had Clay in a headlock. Yeah. And Draymond's not feeling that.
He was already public enemy number one after shutting down the league in 2020 with that whole COVID microphone stunt. So tensions were high all year. But on April 9th, 2023, during a game against the Pelicans, it boiled over. The Timberwolves were down early. Anderson was barking in the huddle. Sources say he kept telling Rudy, "Block some shots." But Gobert snapped and told Anderson to grab a rebound. And before anyone could process it, bang, this happened. The Timberwolves sent him home mid-game. He didn't finish the season finale, didn't dress for the play-in, and in the postgame, Anderson kept it classy. Kinda. "We'll keep it in-house, we'll talk about it and move on." Yeah, sure. The next day, leaked audio surfaced of Anderson tearing into Gobert in that same huddle. "I'll knock your ass out. Keep talking that shit." So, yeah, that in-house beef, it was already out of the house, down the street, and on Twitter with 5 million views. To be fair, the Wolves made up later. They moved on, but for one moment, we saw the team literally punch itself out of momentum with the playoffs on the line. Wait till you see what happens when someone tells LeBron James to man up. Some beefs are loud, others, all it takes is one laugh to trigger a war. It's the 2016 NBA Finals. LeBron and the Cavs had clawed their way back from a 3-1 deficit against the 73-win Golden State Warriors, a team that just felt unbeatable. The whole world thought the series was over. But in Game 5, LeBron exploded for 41 points, and as the pressure started shifting, the Warriors started cracking. Enter Klay Thompson. In a press conference after Game 5, Klay was asked about LeBron's trash talk and physical play. Klay smirked, leaned into the mic, and delivered the sentence that woke a sleeping monster. I guess his feelings just got hurt.
I don't know how the man feels, but obviously people have feelings and people's feelings get hurt, even if they're called a bad word.
That was all it took. LeBron was shown the clip just minutes later. He leaned back, nodded slowly, and said,
"No, I'm not." What did you say Clay said?
Clay said, I guess he just got his feelings hurt.
No yelling, no tweets, just that look and that eerie laughter. You could feel it. Game 6 was going to be personal, and what happened next? LeBron came out possessed.
Blair, he's playing the 5. James drives and easily. James the drive. James up into the game. Finds James. Alley-oop to James. James lines it up and
LeBron exploded for 41 points, 11 assists, and 8 rebounds. He dunked on everyone, blocked everyone. Clay held to 25 on a cold 8 of 21 shooting night. And when the Cavs won Game 7, when Cleveland made history, LeBron didn't forget. He remembered that smirk, that laugh, that dig. And in the tunnel after the buzzer, he let out a scream that was 52 years of frustration and maybe a little bit of payback for Clay too.
Cleveland! This is for you! Oh!
LeBron.
No punches were thrown, but Klay Thompson learned a valuable lesson that day. You don't poke the king because it could get personal. But that, all of that, was just some of the beef. Some still burned beneath the surface long after the final buzzer. If you love this video and want some more, let us know in the comments below.